Well, hello, human. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Be You Get Paid podcast. I'm your host, Amy Taylor, and I have one goal by being in your ears: to explore as many conversations and perspectives as possible on stuff we did not learn in school. You know, stuff that would have actually helped a lot more of us thrive rather than just survive as grown-ups in an often challenging and ever-changing world. As the title might suggest, this includes anything involved with knowing ourselves, understanding money, and generally anything that might offer some insight into how we can all be happier humans. With that in mind, wherever you're listening, you'll find links to some of the best resources I have personally found to help with all of those things. Sometimes I'll talk about these in a bit more detail, and I want you to know I will only ever recommend products, services, and companies that I am a customer or user of myself. Now, we're all grown-ups here, and as such, you'll possibly hear the occasional use of grown-up language. More importantly, anything discussed here is personal opinion and intended for conversational and educational purposes only, and should not be taken as financial or investment advice. That's the housekeeping done. Let's get into what I hope is some helpful chat. Welcome back to the Be You Get Paid podcast. I'm struggling to get my own mouth around that at the moment. Amy Taylor here. I'm your host. I'm here with my friend Vicki Renz from ohmymamabody.com. That is also a bit of a mouthful, but we'll make sure there's links in show notes and everywhere we're putting this so that people can find you. And I was planning on doing an introduction to this podcast after we've spoken, because this is a take two. Vicki and I sat down and did an interview together right back before Christmas, because I was planning on launching this podcast in January. So we sat down, and we'll go into how we met and how we've worked together in the past shortly. But I just wanted to do a quick intro with Vicki sitting here with me. Because the irony is, and I should really do a trigger warning up front, I think, with this episode, because we're going to be talking about quite sensitive stuff. And you can find Vicki online. I'm also going to link another podcast that you were on where you shared a lot more of your own story. But we're going to be touching on miscarriage. We're going to be talking about fertility and some of the struggles that people have with that, particularly people my age group. So it could get sensitive. It could get emotional. I'm not one to plan these things. I will keep going if it does. But ironically, in the first week of January 2023, I found out I was pregnant. And I don't know if Vicki talking to me in December had anything to do with that. I wasn't planning on being pregnant. It was definitely accidental. My partner and I weren't stopping it happening. But shortly after that, within about 6 to 8 weeks, when I went for my dating scan, I found out that it wasn't viable. And to be honest, we were still processing the shock of everything. So my journey at this point with this particular experience I didn't find it particularly emotional. And I might share more detail later in a video. I'll talk to Vicki. I'm still kind of just I was moving house. There was a lot going on, which is why this podcast hasn't actually launched until March. So I just felt compelled to reach out to Vicki and say, can we please do this conversation again? Because we actually had some tech challenges as well, but it's pretty, it just still blows my mind that what's happened since, that this conversation and this particular topic guest is just so much richer now and so much more relevant to me personally. I can ask better questions. I can probably ask them with a lot more empathy, and I just feel better equipped to be taking a genuine interest in this topic. So I turned 40 in November 2022, so just before Christmas. So pregnancy, having children is something that I have thought about for about 10 years. I had spent most of my 30s making peace with I might not. I had an amazing life. I was traveling all over the place. I had lots of adventures. I had never really consciously sat down and thought, I need to crack on with this because of the statistics. I had lots of friends having babies, getting married and doing all the grown-up stuff. But I genuinely made my peace with maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know how I feel about that yet now, having got pregnant, having had a miscarriage, or having had a non-viable pregnancy. everyone's experience is extremely different. And the hardest thing I found about dealing with that was actually hearing other people's experiences. But I am so grateful, Vicki, that I had listened to your interview. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but I will find it and I will link it to you being interviewed about your experience with this before talking to you last time, before I went through it myself, because the information, it embedded itself, because I've had friends go through it and I've not known what to say, and I've not known how to be supportive. And you want to do your best, but it's hard. But yeah, so I'm just so grateful that even the one thing that struck me that I remember thinking when I was lying in my third scan, I subsequently went through 2 surgeries to deal with this situation, was you saying you wish you'd kept the picture or the photo from the scan. And I think when you went through it, that was possibly something you had to ask for. Nowadays, it's all digital and you kind of get sent it through an app and you've got it anyway. And I remember when I got my scan images afterwards, I was like, I'm not overly analytical of this yet, or I'm not analysing it yet, I'm not dwelling on it yet. I might not ever, but I'm just really grateful that I had them because of what you'd said, because I remember you saying one piece of advice you would give anyone who's going through this is don't not have that, because you don't know when you might want to reflect on it, or emotions come up, right? And I that has happened for me, and I've had lots of friends tell me what I should and shouldn't do, and that's been a lesson in itself, because it is such a personal experience. But yeah, I just wanted to do this introduction because I think it's ironic, it's relevant, it's important. I don't think enough people talk about it. I absolutely will talk about it more. I've just been literally otherwise occupied. And I don't know that I was ready to yet, but you were the perfect person to have in front of me and talk about it in a format that will be public at some point. So thank you already for your work. I didn't want to hog the mic. I don't want to hog the mic in any of my interviews, but in this particular one, it felt right to do so, just for that first few minutes and explain how we got here. But welcome. Thank you for coming back and doing a take 2 with me. I really appreciate it. And I know that a lot has happened for you since as well. So we're going to get into all of that. But welcome, Vicki. Hello. Please introduce us to you,
Amy,
and what you do and where we can find you. And we'll go over all that again at the end. And then I'll come back and reintroduce you from a perspective of this is now just a podcast for us to have a chat.
Yeah, great. Hi, Amy. And yeah, really great to be here. I am otherwise known as Oh My Mama Body. Oh My Mama Body is a website, YouTube channel. It's basically a platform I've created to help other women to understand their bodies during their fertility journeys. Based on my own experience of 7 pregnancies, I lost 5 in early stages of miscarriage, and I've got 2 wonderful boys with me now. And when I was going through that journey, there was just so many weird symptoms in my body. I'm very in tune with my body, very intuitive. But when you look on the internet, it's a very scary place. You feel very much alone. And I just had this drive within me. I wanted to help women to understand their bodies so they didn't feel alone during their fertility journeys. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of how this relates to what I'm trying to achieve with this podcast is, I did an Instagram story on this earlier when I just got out of the shower. I was like, I need to introduce this. So I've done a bit of research, not just because I was going to be talking to you. I've just gone down so many rabbit holes as a result of the last 2 years since the world went somewhat crazy. And I'm a big fan of the Modern Wisdom podcast, which is Chris Williamson. And he's doing a lot of research at the moment for a book he's writing called The Mating Crisis. And he referred to a documentary called Birth Gap, which is about declining birth rates in the world. And that was one topic that I've heard come up a few times on my Bitcoin journey that it just shocked me. And this is where I've been for the last couple of years in advance of doing this podcast. It's just there's so many things that we've been sold through mainstream media and society as this is just what it is. All these different issues are starting to overlap for me. And a big one for me is the monetary system, that it touches everything. But this declining birth rates, I'm like, but we've all been told that, that climate change, don't have too many children, or there's the boss babe movement and women's empowerment, do it later, you'll be fine, have a career, make money. And I'm not against any of it. I just think we need to be having more conversations with people like yourself, because there is hope, and it's not necessarily all as catastrophic as we're being told. Or there's the chance that the catastrophe is actually the polar opposite that we're not being made aware of. So this birth gap documentary, people not being able to have children, or people finding out it's too late, that is a huge impact on your freedom and happiness, which is what this podcast is all about. There is hope with people like yourself and the work you're doing. And just to go over the key points that I've taken from the research I've read, or heard third party from other podcasts. Chris Williamson on Modern Wisdom in particular was saying that from all the reading he's done, that 80%, I don't know if you know this, 80% of women over 30 who are childless did not get there by choice. So we just have a massive lack of education, presumably. And then watching birth gap, this is just in case you need any more motivation to do the work you're doing. I'm sure you don't, but I don't know how much of this you know. The birth gap documentary on YouTube, which is by a guy called Stephen Shaw, is that if women around the world are having less than 2 children on average, we are heading for a population collapse. And 70% of the world's population live in countries where that average is double digits below, their double digits percentage below the average. So 70% of the world's population live in countries where we are between 1 and 20%, or 10 and 20%, I think, below the average of people having 2 children each. That is going to result, if we're not careful, if we don't start having more babies, in population collapse. And consequently, and you live in Germany, it's one of the worst affected countries. There are, I don't know if you know this, but there's 50% less children in Germany now than there were 50 years ago. Or children being born. Again, I don't want to be quoted on these stats, but it is mind-blowing to me how much of this stuff we just don't know. But yet we're being told the world is ending, the climate is in jeopardy because of not having enough children, we're having too many children. But it's like, but if we die out, why are you worried about the planet being affected? Mother Nature will sort itself out. Like, we're worried about the state of the environment for humans to live in, but humans won't be here if we carry on like this. So it's just getting people to start critical thinking about everything, and then hopefully finding people like you to help them on that journey. So Germany, I'm going a bit off piste here, but Germany is one of the worst affected countries, to the point that the aging population, which is happening around the world, it's really morbid. Chris Williamson shared this again, that there's a survey or a study that's been done in Germany with undertakers, funeral directors. And it's one of the highest countries where there's a trend of people dying and having funerals with no one there because they have no family. Wow. And it's really quite morbid. So the hope and the polar opposite of this very morbid conversation is you. And so I hope that motivates you, but you are the hope, and the work you do, to me, is the hope. Especially after, my experience. I'm quite fortunate, and I'm grateful that my experience recently has told me that, everything works. And for my age, my stats are quite good. But there are a lot of people out there who haven't had that experience, who won't have that experience. But, you are an avenue, and the work you do, I believe, is an avenue that a lot of people just won't have heard of. So I am going to stop hogging the mic now. And we definitely didn't learn this stuff at school, which is what I'm here for as well. So tell me what womb healing is, and we'll get onto the kind of reasons people come to you.
Yeah, really happy to talk about this. Womb healing is something that maybe be viewed as woo-woo, energy healing, what's that, esoteric, holistic healing, when in actual fact it's very scientifically proven to work. So I'll explain a little bit about how that is. So scientists have proven that we hold on to something called cellular memory in our bodies. So every single cell in our bodies is affected by the type of energy we have inside of us. So positive or negative energy. And you can already feel that if you've got a lot of positive energy in yourself, then everything's flowing well. And you see that, you notice that in people, people who walk into a room and light up a room, you can see that in our energy fields. If there's negative energy, someone's withdrawn, they're hugging their shoulders. All of this is inside of us as well. And it affects all of our organs inside of our bodies, and especially our womb for us women. It's our feminine core. It's our creative center. And when the cells inside of our womb are holding on to like trauma, pain, emotions, lots of heavy stuff, from past relationships. I could go on about that. There's so much that we do hold on to. Yeah. And the womb healing goes in and connects you with that cellular memory so that you can understand what you're holding on to and start releasing and healing it. So you create that lightness, you create that revived positive flow within your body. Typical results for women who are working consistently on themselves or come to me one-to-one. Women haven't had their periods for months, and their period comes back after one session because they've revived their flow, they've connected in with their energy. There's just so much around it that's, sparking that life back into them. So I'll let you speak again before I go on and on, because I absolutely love the topic.
No, I love it. Your passion for this is so palpable, even through a screen. So I remember when we spoke the first time, and do you know what? I might even just put some clips of our first conversation that did come out okay at the end, maybe, if we don't cover it again, because it was a great chat. But yeah, this is just so much more relevant for me now. I was actually doing, right up until we spoke, I'd done a one-on-one 8-week coaching program with Prue, her name is. I'll give her a shout out, and I will probably get her on the podcast at some point, all about mind-body connection. And I started diving into this work at the beginning of 2020. I went on a women's retreat in Fiji, and I went primarily because Elizabeth Gilbert, who's the author of Eat, Pray, Love, was there as a speaker. And it was an amazing retreat, and that's all I was going for, was to hear her speak. That was opening the door for me, and I was so skeptical. I've always avoided women-only environments, but that environment and what I learned there from a lot of other speakers, to be honest, Liz was great, but shout out to Liz, she's awesome, love her to bits. But what I got from everyone else far outweighed everything I learned there. But the theme was just relaxed women. Women are so stressed, and I think because we're just living through this shift, or have been for a few decades now, whereby cost of living, money, people need more than one income. So women have gone back into the workforce, which on so many levels is fantastic. It's empowering. You see lots of women getting confidence from that and an identity. It's amazing, but it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. You've also got technology that's advanced. And I think what I remember you saying before, or we touched on, was how our physiology and our bodies haven't really changed for millions of years, or at least a few 100,000 years, but our brains and our minds have completely outpaced our bodies, which is amazing. We've evolved and created incredible things as human beings because of our brains, but there's just so much going into the mind that then affects the nervous system and the body. And I think what you're getting at is just we've got to just connect. We've got this separate brain from body experience going on, and going to that retreat opened that door for me. And I know that as a female who's focused on business and career and making money, and I've done pretty well for myself, but I looked back and I didn't realize how exhausting I'd found that, because I wasn't coming from a very feminine place with it. So can you touch on that?
Disconnected.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, that's often the first reason when women come to me. They're highly stressed. They're completely disconnected from their womb. They're completely disconnected from their body. You said you did an embodiment course. Embodiment is so important. So thinking about our modern day world, we have so many inputs around us. From the moment we wake up in the morning, Electricity is running. There's all sorts of other energies affecting us. We probably turn on our phone. One of the first things we do is start scrolling. We're already taken somewhere else outside of our body rather than being within. And this, like, you know, the buildup of stress, like, over time, it can release cortisol. So cortisol is the stress hormone, and cortisol can stop the messages functioning properly between our brain and our womb, our reproductive system. So cortisol will actually block things from running smoothly, because cortisol is saying, this isn't a healthy environment anymore for a pregnancy, so I'm going to stop things working properly. And you'll see just how many problems women are having now in their womb. You know, we've got fibroids, endometriosis. It's Endometriosis Awareness Month at the moment in March. Ovarian cysts, PCOS. There's so much that we're holding on into our womb, and a lot of it to do with this disconnectedness and daily stress as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is just my opinion, but I have data from the coaching I've done with Gallup. Like, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that stress levels are rising, just pretty much in line with cost of living and inflation rising. And I think we're living through a time at the moment where that's just being exacerbated and accelerated, and it's not okay. And these are this is the impact. It's like people are putting off. Did you find that a lot of your clients, I'm sure you have a range of age groups that come to you, but do you find that a lot of clients have put it off because of money, or they're stressed because of work, because of money, or what do you find the narratives are, or the themes, the trends, I should say?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't left it this long. A lot of my clients are slightly older. Yeah. And yeah, they're career ladies. Their career comes first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it that way for you? I know when you told your story on the podcast, I heard it was you were about to go traveling the first time you got pregnant. How old were you?
Yeah, totally. So when I first really wanted to start trying, when I was really ready for it, I was 32. So I'd been traveling, I'd had my adventure. And before that, I'd already had a miscarriage, which actually did change things up for me. I wasn't thinking about having babies. It was an accident. I was wearing an IUD coil and I got pregnant anyway. I mean, that's a whole different story. But it does change things for you when you go through a miscarriage. You suddenly get this like, oh my gosh, my life is starting to tick. Yeah. Tick tock. And yeah, you really get a bit more pressure inside of you for like, oh, actually, now is the time. I wasn't going to have babies probably until my mid-30s, but that pressure inside of me was telling me to start earlier. And yeah, that's when I started with all my fertility struggles in my early 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, if people want to hear Vicki's story, I will link that other podcast because you go into it in quite a lot of detail, but it's just not something I want to hash over here because I want to fix why this is happening, which is more of a sort of societal, systemic, I guess is the word, issue, like so many other things. So what, when you touched on there how it did change things for you, and I think now that I've been through that, it has for me too. It certainly made me think, well, yes, now or never. Not now or never, but I hadn't considered how much I might. I was very much, I'd made my peace with it. And I guess that was me just telling myself, and I'm a big one for, coaching I do is self-talk and what we tell ourselves and the conversations we're having with ourselves that we're also having with other people. And so what did you tell yourself when you just said you were going to wait till your mid-30s or whatever? What was your opinion or self-talk on that at that point? Why would you wait? Because career came first, or just you had time?
Career and life. I wanted to live my life and have loads of adventure before I started having a family. Probably because lots of friends around me had their children in their mid-20s, and I was looking at them thinking, okay, I wanted to have it different. I really want to see the world. I had this big drive within me to see the world and go traveling. I needed to do that before anything else happened. But having that pregnancy inside of me, when you have that pregnancy inside of you, you have different hormones and you feel it that just changes things completely.
We were watching certain TV shows and I was like, I can't watch this. It was suddenly too traumatic to watch to allow certain things in. I was like, I can't. It was crazy. And I've said this to a lot of my friends. Like I personally didn't get as far as I never saw a heartbeat. I know, none of my scans showed a heartbeat. It was either too early or it just hadn't happened. And my doctor described it as, not enough people get told that this can happen. It's literally just misformed cells that never got as far as being. And I think, again, we're given these extremes, and I've got girlfriends who have been through really extreme traumatic stuff. I'm not demeaning it by any way. It was just, I think it's important that I share a bit more of what it was for me, and I will, because I didn't have that feeling of I didn't connect to any life inside my body, but it was more just, but I have this responsibility now. I need to look after myself more than I was before. I'm pretty healthy. I'm very health conscious, but yeah, it definitely shifted something.
Totally. That's really interesting that you just said about how the doctor explained it as just a bunch of cells. That's so hurtful for women. I know that's another avenue to go down. How miscarriage is seen in society.
I appreciated her directness because of what could be coming next. So again, everyone is so different, and I think that's just what's important. And I guess from my perspective here, I'm like, I just want to make sure anyone out there who's felt the way, why is my phone connected to my watch? I'm really sorry. That was annoying. It's done one of those updates where it turns all the notifications back on. Sorry, apologies. I guess I just wanted to make sure there's someone out there somewhere on the interweb saying it's okay if you didn't feel as upset as someone else. I could have another one and feel completely different. But yes, I agree that I guess the doctor was feeding off of me, and she was very direct. So, but it is, you're right. It's better to err on the side of empathy, which I think a lot of people just aren't equipped for, these days. But let's carry on. So people come to you, they're stressed. A lot of them are career women. What other benefits do you find? Well, actually, let's talk about one of your recent clients. Like, you've got to share something that hadn't happened when we spoke the first time. So when we spoke the first time, you said you just had your first client who was going through IVF. Can you, obviously with privacy, no names, but share a little more about that? Because that's something I've watched girlfriends go through, and I don't know, I could change my mind. I'm not sure I would want to put myself through that for a number of reasons. I might change my mind, but tell us what that story was and how it started, how it's going.
Yeah. She'd actually found me through my YouTube videos because she'd had previous IUIs which hadn't worked out. And so she'd been experiencing early signs of pregnancy.
Sorry.
Get me to explain that. I can't say what it stands for because it's such a long word.
I'm so leaving that in. You want me to cut that out, don't you?
So please do.
No. I love it. I love you. That's so funny. I'm sure it's not funny, whatever it is, but I've made a vow that I'm not editing this podcast unless it's just tech delays, and I might cut the gaps out, but you're adorable. Carry on. Whatever it was, I'll Google it.
Okay.
So this lady comes to you with whatever IUI is.
Yeah, so a lady comes to me because she's had 2 IUIs that haven't been successful. She's found me on YouTube and absolutely loved my early pregnancy videos because it's really helped her to understand what's going on in her body, because I really do talk in detail about what's going on. Also saw on my channel that I do womb healing, came to one of my workshops, absolutely loved the workshop where I walked them through how to connect in and do the 5 steps to womb healing technique. This is my womb healing technique. And then she won a call with me as well, a one-to-one session, which was really amazing. Such a wonderful woman. And she'd been through some horrific childhood trauma, childhood abuse, been through a lot of counselling because of that. And she really was surprised that something still wasn't working inside of her body. So the womb healing was that connect for her. Despite so much counselling and, trauma release, they hadn't worked on her womb. So her womb was that missing piece of the puzzle. So she decided to come to me one-to-one because she had her IVF, her one and only chance at IVF, coming up late January, early February. So we got straight into connecting with her womb.
She spoke to you before she went through IVF or after?
before, and we did all the work during her whole IVF stage. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started off at the beginning. So a couple of weeks before she started doing her injections and everything else that you need for your IVF journey, clearing her womb space, making it a really loving space. So really going in and releasing trauma in there, and fear and anxiety. There was so much that she was holding on to because she thought, what if I lose it again? This is my only chance. She was feeling a lot, stressed. She was under pressure, and really creating that wonderful, loving environment and doing a lot of embodiment, how her body feels inside, how that's going to feel for her baby when her baby comes in. Amazing. And then the day she went to have the IVF actually done, the embryo transfer, then we met again in the evening, and again, welcomed that baby into her womb, made the baby, feel comfortable. She was feeling great in herself, and then further support after that as she was going through, the early stages of pregnancy. Sometimes you feel cramping, you get worried, and it's normal for our womb to cramp. But, if you felt that before and have lost, then it creates a lot of anxiety. So really helping her to soothe and stay calm, and really keeping that positive flow going as well. And it's an absolutely amazing story. I love her to bits. A really incredible woman. And now she's in her first trimester. Everything's working out so well for her. So it's just so nice to see how her journey is evolving. That's incredible. It's been a beautiful experience and such an honor.
It is. I was going to say that's massive for you. And I'm sure there's going to be skeptics who don't believe in woo-woo stuff. I didn't a couple of years ago. There will be skeptics that say, but if you're going to be putting yourself through what I understand from friends to be, a pretty horrific and intense process that can result in, a lot of heartbreak and a lot of anxiety, and not to mention a lot of money, why wouldn't you throw everything at it? So that's, congratulations. That's awesome. So what else do you find, just one last question on your specific work that you're doing now, which is, what I want to make the main focus of this conversation. Do you find people probably come to you before they've been pregnant or during this, like you say, with the IVF going into it? What other results do people get that you find, and maybe they're not looking to get pregnant? Have you had anyone that's not, or what other results do you find people have? Because I know that the work I've done on this stuff is, regardless of future children or not, it has just been life-changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I get women coming to me with ovarian cysts. So ovarian cysts are slightly different to PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Yeah. Which is lots of small little cysts growing within your ovaries and creating hormone imbalance. I do have a client with that. A lot of clients come to me with one or two larger cysts, which are also blocking their flow. Not all of them are wanting then to have a family. They're just wanting to get rid of the pain and that feeling of self-consciousness and the low self-esteem because they've got this cyst, and sometimes it's actually visible as well because it's causing bloating, it's showing up on the outside, and going into the energies that they're holding within their cyst to release it and help it reduce. I love those stories as well because it's helping them to feel worthy as a woman again, that everything's functioning inside of them again. When things aren't working right inside of your womb, you really feel like you're just, something's not right with you as a woman, and you're constantly questioning yourself. You've got it on your mind 24/7. And it really, you turn into a shadow of who you are. So helping these women to get their self-esteem and confidence back, and just seeing their lives change as they connect with their core, like their feminine flow, and find their lease of life again. I mean, they really become alive again. Like they go out, they socialize, they do things they absolutely love, like playing a musical instrument, going out and singing and dancing. Is just such a joy to be part of. Yeah.
I'm glad you said all of that because that resonates with me. Like it absolutely resonates with me. And I think there's other rabbit holes of conversation we could go down that are rife in society at the moment, that, with kids questioning gender identity and and we just don't get taught this stuff, and I don't want to get into that conversation. It's a separate one, and I'm definitely not qualified to talk about it. I don't have children, but that is a big one that I just think again, we're being told mainstream medical treatments are not the way to go for a lot of this stuff, or by all means exhaust them. But I feel like there's these holistic approaches and natural approaches that are becoming more and more talked about and successful more than anything, that are getting the results that, you know, people like you we live in this world now, and this is going macro with what I believe and what this podcast is about. We are in this world now where being online is impacting education. It's impacting how people work. The future of work and education, everything's online. Like schools and traditional institutional structures that we're used to are just going to start shifting very quickly. Whatever the dream of more freedom and happiness might mean to you, be it more money, more time, flexibility of location, or simply more personal freedom to indulge those forgotten passions and long-lost creativity, starting a one-person business on the internet can be so much simpler, not to mention a whole lot of fun, than you might think. When it comes to creating happiness in this brave new modern world, my motto will always be, quite simply, be you and get paid. To me, those two things are pretty key to succeeding in most areas of life. And there really has never been a better time to quite literally get paid for being you by understanding how to build income streams on the internet. I'm sure you're a lot smarter than the teenagers with zero life experience you have seen making a small fortune. But even with no experience, there's no need for any of that outdated and awkward stuff like cold calling, convincing friends and family, or endlessly posting on social media. Anyone who's ever built a business of any size will tell you one golden rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Build simple digital skills and assets that build simple income streams that for many people, and I've seen it many times, can more than replace an average salary in the space of a year or two. If working hard was the key to success, wouldn't a lot more of us already be successful? It's all about learning to work smarter long-term instead of harder. Head over to beyougetpaid.com/launch to start discovering the perfect one-person business path for you, with all the tools and training that you'll need under one roof. And if you decide to sign up to our introductory curriculum, Modern Wealthy, I'll be there to cheer you on with monthly Q&A coaching calls. That's beyougetpaid.com/launch. How people work, the future of work and education, everything's online. Like schools and traditional institutional structures that we're used to are just going to start shifting very quickly. Which is why I'm here to talk to people like yourself, which is a perfect segue into your online journey, and how we met. When it comes to being you and getting paid, you're a perfect example to be talking to about this. So we met through digital entrepreneurship and digital skills, marketing, training, community. I was a couple of years in when I think you joined, and we had a couple of coaching calls, and you were just starting your YouTube channel, and you'd learned some skills, and you were working from home, and you have a day job. You're am I right? Let me remember. Events consulting management. Is that right?
I was working in project management, IT project management.
Oh, that's right. So, and you're still doing a bit of that, but you've kind of transitioned part-time, and, you know, you had a job, and I always want to touch on that and say, you know, Vicki and everyone I talk to is not necessarily someone who's just thrown themselves into this online business, different career change and given up everything and burnt their bridges, because that's another message that you see a lot on Instagram and from influencers. Like, oh, I sacked my boss with $10 in the bank. No, keep your job right now with where the world is at. Keep your job if you need it. And you and I spoke, you'd learned some skills, and we were narrowing down on who are the people you want to find and market to and your message. And it was basically helping other stay-at-home mums, or helping mums who want to be at home with their kids and have a flexible business. So we were looking at how we could put a message together that targeted that. And then it was a couple of weeks later, you had this one video that you were like, oh my God, my YouTube channel is starting to blow up. Because I think we just talked about, well, gets a bit batshit boring just saying, oh, learn to start an online business, and everyone's doing the same thing. And you wanted to talk about this stuff that you were so passionate about, right? So what was it what was that turning point? Tell us about that video.
Yeah, it was a massive shift for me. And me going out there and talking about the things that I was really passionate about, which was the really early signs of pregnancy, what's going on in your body, and loss. Yeah. And, you know, when you're working in a full-time job, you're like, what is everyone going to think of me if I put this out there? And it really held back. So I went for it, put this video out about my 12 really early signs of pregnancy. And yeah, it just blew up. It was absolutely loved because I was talking about things that were different to all those videos that were already out there. You know, my personal experience and what that all felt like, really heartfelt and really authentic. And that's what the women absolutely love about that video.
There's that word. There's that word. It was, and I just can't impress this enough on people, because people who don't know you won't have seen that all play out. But you know, it was that step. So many people have that self-conscious feeling of, especially if they have a job, what's everyone going to think of me? And it doesn't matter. And how can I be different? Or what's my value? What can I say? There's loads of people talking about that, but there's no one talking about it that's been through your journey. I've got to stop saying journey so much. I keep saying it a lot. There's no one that's got your perspective. You are so unique. That's why I've branded this podcast and myself this message of be you, get paid. No one else has your perspective on this, especially someone like yourself in this particular niche that you've gone into that's had 5 miscarriages. You have walked your talk. I'm fairly sure my doctor that we were talking about a minute ago hasn't. Well, she may have, I don't know. But, you know, you've walked it, you've been through it, you have results. That is where the world is going. Go and find these people that you can help. And likewise, if you're looking for help, just get online, just exhaust information, self-educate. So there's a little rant about self-education. But what else did you get? Because I've watched you just flourish. And so what else did just following that passion and that fire give you? What's it given you since?
So much. I've tried out lots of different things. That's what you do when you're on your, self-education digital journey. Trying out things, and making loads of videos. I went into every single symptom. It was my absolute passion. Whilst I was going through all this, I wrote down 50 things that were happening in my body that I couldn't find decent answers to online. There was terrible answers, things that make you worry if you're going to be alive the next day. And I wanted to change that for women and just really give them that assurance about what's going on in their body and explain it in a way, how I am. I continued doing that. And at the same time, how to connect myself as an energy healer into all of that, because I love healing and I didn't know how to bring it in at first. Yeah, I'd done it previously. I learned it in my early 20s. It's something I always knew things before they happened and very in tune with my body, and was very surprised then that I was having fertility problems when it came up, because I did think I'd done so much work on myself, but there was still so much more to do. And that's where that connect with the womb came in and created this now that I've got to then offer back to help so many women. And that's really evolved then over the last 3 years. And so now helping women on their fertility journeys, and those struggling to get pregnant, those with blockages in their womb, but they can unblock their womb and really unleash their flow.
And it's possibility, the narrative is, there is absolutely science to back it up. The older you get, the harder it is, generally speaking. But the point is, everyone is unique. Be you. Everyone is different. And if this is something you're struggling with, just please go or have struggled with, or know anyone that's struggling with, please just go and check Vicki's work out, or dive into embodiment work, because it is just so important. Like for me, it's, people said I looked different when I came back from that retreat that I first went on, and I felt it. I did. It took me, it was a classic, I need a holiday to recover from this. It was an emotional just exorcism. Because we just go. We're so stimulated with technology and stress, and these are the kind of impacts it's having. But also just watching your confidence on camera grew. One of the biggest fears that people have in life is just getting on camera or speaking on stage, and you've done it all. It's great. Like the benefits just don't end at generating an income or following your passion. It's great. It's so good to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely life-changing once you start, and, you know, you just want to keep on growing and learning and helping, which is why I'm writing a book now as well. You know, everything is the next stage to help even more women, to reach millions of women. That's my absolute massive goal now.
Yeah, and you can on the internet. You absolutely can. Cool. So I feel like we've covered quite a bit of your journey. Congratulations again. I want to move us on to Bitcoin and the money conversation. So just to mix it up a bit, what is money? There's a question that I ask everyone now. Like, what is money? When I say to you, what's money? What is it? What do you think?
Well, from the healer point of view, money is energy. You know, money is something that is, it's also, money allows me to live my life, to have that adventure, that travel, to support me with my house and my family. You know, money is something that I need as well, to be able to live the quality of life that I want for myself. Yeah.
I love that you said energy. That's the key piece when it comes to Bitcoin as well. Does money bring happiness, in your opinion?
No. Money, of course, it's nice to have money in your life, and, you know, happiness lies within and how you feel about yourself.
So going back to what we said before, it's interesting. I actually thought you would say yes, because I would always say yes. And I can share my reasons for that in other places. But going back to what you said about, and I'm not trying to change your mind, it's just an interesting conversation. It always is, because I think there's a taboo around it, and that's what I'm trying to be a stand for not having. You know, when you think about how much stress as a result of career, which is partly driven by a need for money, is affecting your clients, I feel like I just look at the polarity of it. It's like, okay, you might not want to agree that money brings happiness, but if financial anxiety is breeding a version of unhappiness, then can those two coexist? Just something to think about. That's my message. Anyway.
Yeah, totally. You need money to survive and thrive, don't you? So money, it can bring happiness, but it can also bring like massive stress, massive overload. Totally. Yep. That's why I would say,
and more money, more stress for a lot of people.
Does money bring happiness?
Yeah, 100%. It brings plenty of problems as well. Cool. So you have shared with me that you or your husband has Bitcoin.
That's right. Yes, we do.
And so what's your journey with that been, or what are your thoughts? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. When Bitcoin first came out, it was something that I think we all looked at a bit like, what is that? You know, should we really buy it now? And now you look back and like, oh my gosh, I should have bought that, right? You know, like 8 years ago when it first started out. Oh my gosh, if I had it now. When I first became aware of Bitcoin, probably, it's about 8 years ago when it first really kind of came into my awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely should.
When we actually, it was around, I think it was when lockdown started that I became really aware of, you know, everything's online, everything's digital, and that's when we made our first investment into Bitcoin. And since then, we've made further investments. Now, it does fluctuate, goes up and down quite a bit, which I think can be quite off-putting sometimes, but you know, like you said, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. It's always going to be one Bitcoin. Yeah. So, and our journey will continue with it.
Good. Because I think it's only, you obviously have a base understanding and keep learning. You can never stop learning. It moves so fast. But I think people do get caught up in the how, which is certainly when you go into business for yourself, you get stuck in that as well. Or even, I guess, on a pregnancy journey, people get stuck in the how rather than the why, or the, you know, the feeling around it. And I think for me, I've stopped getting sucked in by the why, the how of Bitcoin, because the why for me is so much stronger, and what the work you're doing, or at least the issues in society and the challenges that people have with it, that is directly impacting their happiness and their freedom, is massive. Like, people not having children, like that's what we're here to do for many of us. I know not everybody wants to, but for those who want to, that have put it off, that then are very unhappy that they can't, or they have these challenges with it, you know, it's so important to recognize that a big cause of that is financial anxiety, stress, or working to keep up with their costs to survive. And to me, that is one of many things that Bitcoin fixes. We have this fix the money, fix the world slogan. But, you know, on a financial system or standard that allows people to not necessarily chase money to be in the top 1 to 5% of wealth, they should be able to live life and have children and reproduce without this stress that it's just not financially feasible.
Now, I am here to preach the why of Bitcoin. But if you're anything like me or any other human being, chances are you probably want to cut to the chase of how to buy some. Am I right? Well, you're in luck, my friend, because I have done that legwork for you with the Amber app. I have been a customer of this app for well over a year now, and it has enabled me to put my Bitcoin buying and saving on complete autopilot. So when they reached out to partner up with this podcast, it was a no-brainer for me. There really aren't many places I would trust these days for buying my Bitcoin, but Amber is one of them, partly as they are a Bitcoin-only platform, but also because they have fun and automated features like Buy the Shift and Stack Like a Sailor, which will make a lot of sense if you're hanging out on Twitter and know what the expert investors are doing without having to spend hours of your life learning how to do it too. Head over to bugetpaid.com/Amber or set up your account using BU Get Paid to get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up.
They should be able to live life and have children and reproduce without this stress that it's just not financially feasible. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you, because, you know, the work you're doing is hope for those people that either haven't recognized that yet or are looking at it early enough and going, well, how? So yeah, it's education. So lastly, questions I always ask people, any advice, and they can be two separate things or just one generic piece of advice. This podcast is all about, you know, diving into the worlds of freedom and happiness. And my belief is if you know yourself and you know money, you can go a long way on those two things alone. So what advice would you give your younger self on knowing yourself or being true to yourself, being you? And then advice on understanding money, getting paid, that side of things. What would you say to your younger self, and when and why?
Oh gosh, you know, now that we're older and wiser, it is like that when you get to over 40, you just feel so much wiser. If I could go back to my 20-year-old self, I'd have started, okay, online was only just starting then, but I would have started off getting to know it straight away then, rather than getting sucked into go to uni, study something, get that job and career. Oh, gosh, I'd have gone down that path of following my passion straight away rather than getting sucked into that just to do what society expects of you. And I would have bought that Bitcoin when Bitcoin first came out, definitely. Gosh, you know, take more of a risk. I think when I was younger, I used to hold on to money. I'd be like, I can't do anything with my money. I'm going to hold on to it. I might lose it. I was scared. There was all this fear around money, which has completely changed now over the years. Yeah. And just understand that money is a flow and it is that energy. And it's like the waves on the beach. The waves come in, the waves go out. Money comes and goes. It's inflow. So follow that flow. Take those risks.
It's called currency. It's a current. It's meant to flow. I think that's definitions of words, and communication is a big one for me that I'm studying at the moment, you know, the self-talk stuff. But what was your on that? I think I asked you last time and your answer was great, so I'm trying to engineer the conversation to get it out of you again. If not, I'll just go find the clip. What was your relationship, or what did you learn from your parents about money? Because that's huge when we're talking about having children. So what was your money story there?
Yeah, massive money story there, massive money story. And as in my grandparents were quite well off, well-to-do. They were from upper class, as we called it those days, and only travelled, you know, business class, and anything else was below them, and meaning also that everyone else was below them. So if you went out for dinner in a restaurant, the waitress was someone you didn't even talk to. Quite embarrassing as I was getting older. But that got passed on to us. It got passed on to my parents. And, you know, there was a time, gosh, in the 90s when the mortgages went up, there was a financial crisis, and my father couldn't pay our mortgage. my mum asked her parents for money. It got refused because my father wasn't good enough. And I remember money being thrown around and lots of arguments around money, and then having to sell that house, go into a really small house, and just affected my life at the time a lot. And then there was always this bad feeling around money. Money doesn't bring happiness. Money is, something bad. Yeah. So, gosh, that continues until you decide to stop that chain and change things within yourself. And it was embodied inside of me as well, that negative feeling around money.
There's the crossover. It does. Like you mentioned your grandparents last time we spoke, and you said they were the chair of the golf club, and that money was status, I think is what you said. Mm-hmm. Which you didn't go into that much detail. I mean, that's everything you've just said is an extended version of that, which I think with the work you do now as well, I certainly touched on this in my embodiment work with my coach, was, it stores itself everywhere. And another level, another devil is something I think a lot of people say in the personal development space. I've done okay. I've done pretty well for myself to this point, but I've had to release all this. I don't know if it's deeper or just a different version of the same thing around money. Like for me, it was money destroys relationships, like watching my parents break up or the things that I've done in the work I've done on myself, the things that you remember as a child. It's true. It really sticks with you. And it's only when you're a grown up and you're trying to do other things, these little details of previous experiences, you start to realize, like you said right at the beginning of this conversation, that it's embedded in your being, in your cells. And I think starting a business, going back to what you did and the confidence to put yourself out there, I think all of that's going on too, somewhere in your head, in your mindset around it. It's just not the done thing, but I feel like going there and going into just doing something of your own creatively, even if it's not to make money, it's the best form of therapy because it's just going to bring stuff up that doesn't come up when you're just doing what everybody else does.
Big time. Yeah, totally.
Therapy that pays you.
I keep on going.
There's a reason to be you get paid. It's a therapy that will pay you. Great. Cool. Well, thank you so much. We've done quite well to keep this under an hour, but we've covered a lot, and I am really grateful that you were willing at short notice as well to do this again. The sound is great. I don't think I'm going to have to do any editing of the previous conversation, and this is so much better. So thank you. And thank you for your support as well. You're one of the first people I reached out to, A, when I found out I was pregnant, and B, when I found out it wasn't going to be viable. I went straight to your YouTube channel. I watched your video on the D&C procedure, which I ended up having 2 of, as you know. So if anyone is listening to this, I know we've kind of riffed and been quite lighthearted for the most part, but any questions for me, by all means, reach out, ask me. I will share content on it at some point. It's just not top of my list for sharing just yet. But Vicki, tell us where people can find you. Where are you most active?
Yep. People can find me under ohmymamabody.com. O as in OH, my mama body. And you'll find me, Oh My Mama Body, on Instagram to really keep up to date with me, and also a bit behind the scenes as well, who I really am, what do I do in my life, but also how I can help you as well. Instagram is the best place to go to. So it's Vicki_Oh My Mama Body. Yeah.
And I remember, but you've forgotten, everyone needs to go to Vicki's website and get onto her mailing list, however she has that set up, because she's writing a book. And all of this wisdom will be imparted that way too. But yes. Is that everything? Is that everywhere they can find you? Instagram's great. I love Instagram. Cool. But thanks again.
Yeah, Instagram's great. I'll give you the link for my website for the book as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. All of that will be in the show notes, in the description, wherever you're watching or listening. Vicki, thank you so much. We will do this again another time, because when we speak, things happen, apparently. So thanks again, and talk to you another time. Take care.
You too. Thanks so much, Amy.
Thanks so much for taking the time to tune in to this podcast. I really appreciate it. If you found it helpful or useful, or even if you just feel a tiny, tiny bit better for having listened, there's a couple of things you can do that would take a few seconds that I'd really appreciate you taking the time to do. First thing you can do is subscribe wherever you're listening. If that's on a podcast platform, it's usually just pressing the plus sign next to the main show listing page. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel or give us a like on the video. If you're feeling really generous, you can leave us a comment or a review. That's either on YouTube or the podcast platforms once again. If you feel like anyone else in your life might benefit from any of the topics that you hear us talking about, feel free to send them an episode. And lastly, feel free to give me feedback, comments, suggestions, or personal reviews and thoughts and feelings on social media. And tag me so I can thank you. It's at Amy Taylor Says on Instagram or Twitter, or send me an email on amy@bugetpaid.com. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget to keep being you, keep getting paid, but most importantly, just be happy. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't enjoy it, don't do any of those things. You just go have a nice day. Save your time. Thanks.